Well, hi there, everybody. I'm surely glad to see you all. Do you know who I am? Why, my name is Gus Guitar, and today I'm going to tell you all a little bit about us guitars and a couple of friends of ours. I'd be proud to have you meet my good buddy all the way from Hawaii, our 50th state. Here he is, Ukulele. Say hi, Uke. And here's a happy fella you've all heard one time or another, my friend Banjo. The three of us are all kissing cousins of the string family of musical instruments, like Victor Violin and Aunt Viola and Cousin Cello and Great Uncle Double Bass. They're all played with a bow, you see, while we're plucked or strummed. But I'll tell you all about that a little later. Of course, Victor and the rest spend most of their time playing in those big symphony orchestras, while us, well, mostly we're on our own. Take us guitars, for instance. Lots of people think we're just country folks, and all we know how to do is strum a little bit while someone sings. Sure, we like strumming just as much as the next fella. It's easy to do and makes a right pretty sound that people can sing or dance to. Like, how about, Jimmy crack corn and I don't care. Jimmy crack corn and I don't care. Jimmy crack corn and I don't care. My master's gone away. But shucks. That's not all guitars can do, not by a long shot. We wear lots of hats, and we can play most any kind of music you want to throw at us. And we sure have been around on this good earth a long, long time. Why, we go all the way back thousands of years to a pretty little instrument people called the lute. See, here's a lute. Isn't that a dilly? The lute, here tell, was sort of pear-shaped. Like all true string instruments, it was made of a hollow wooden body with strings stretched tightly from top to bottom. It was plucked with the fingers, just as we are now. And would you believe it? In ancient times, the lute, in one form or another, was played all over the civilized world, even as far east as China and Japan. I reckon the first guitar you could call a guitar came from the Moors. They brought my great-grandfather with them when they invaded Spain about 1300 A.D. The Moorish guitar got to be so popular in Spain that it swept the country. In fact, it became the national instrument of Spain. Why, to this day, folks still call me the Spanish guitar. After opera started to be written around the year 1600, the orchestra gradually came into being. About a century and a half later, the great composer Haydn really organized the orchestra as we know it today. Haydn took out many instruments, such as the harpsichord, and added others. We guitars got left out in the cold for the time being, but that didn't bother us much. In some parts of the world, like Spain, we still were big favorites, and a very special kind of music began to be written using guitars like they'd never been used before. It's called flamenco music, and it comes from the south of Spain. It's the music of the Spanish gypsies. The gypsies liked us right well. They wanted their music to be snappy and full of excitement with lots of rhythm. They played guitars for their singing and for their dancing. Doesn't that beat all? That's a foot stomper and a finger snapper if I ever heard one. Oh, say, I'd better tell you about flamenco guitars. They're made just a little differently from regular ones. First of all, They're about half as heavy as we are, 'cause they're made out of cedar wood, while we're made from birch mostly. And you see there, we only have one little wooden bridge that holds the strings away from the body. And the flamenco guitar has that and another bridge up further. The reason for that second bridge, which the player can take off if he's a mind to, is to shorten the strings even more and give out a real high, sharp sound. Both of us have 6 strings, as you can see, and you can strum us with your fingertips if you want to, but mostly people pluck our strings with a little bitty thing made out of horn or metal called a plectrum. On a flamenco guitar, though, the player always uses his fingernails to pluck the strings, and very often he strikes the bottom of the wooden body like this. That flamenco music first started being heard in the big towns and cities of Europe in the early 1700s, and a few years later, we guitars were discovered all over again by composers and orchestras. And don't you know it, before we knew what we were about, we were being carted into concert halls and all sorts of important places where composers like Aguado, Schubert, Berlioz, and Mahler were writing special music for us. All this music is called classical guitar, and I'll tell you, it takes a mite of work to play it. Just listen. Well now, it wasn't long before we guitars set off to see the world, along with all the people who were sailing to America. The Spanish took us to Mexico and South America, and we settled down there right comfortably. We were just right for carrying across the ocean to a new land, light to pick up, easy to learn to play, and very handy when a fellow was courting a pretty lady. In Mexico, we were always being taken out in the moonlight with all those roses and stars and handsome gentlemen romancing their ladies. That's right pretty, isn't it? But you know where we found ourselves most at home of all the places we traveled to? Why, right out west in the United States, out in what they used to call cow country, on those empty flat grasslands stretching out as far as the eye could see. It was there that the cowboys, the lonesomest bunch you ever did see, took to us right off. You see, a cowboy's life in those days was a hard and lonely and kind of sad life in a way. Most of those poor fellas didn't have any family or homes or a piece of land to call their own. Their pay was poor, and they spent long weeks out on the trail with nothing to take care of but the cows. And cows are kind of nervous creatures. It doesn't take much to make 'em all jumpy and ready to start running 6 ways at once. So there was the cowboy, late at night, riding his pony round and about the herd, no one to talk to. But you know, cows like the sound of a fella singing kind of quiet and peaceful in the night. So the cowboys would play the guitars and make up their own songs, singing about things they missed or things they'd done and seen, about the lonely life they led or the girls they'd left behind them. Now, you just listen to this. It's about the lonesomest cowboy song I ever did play. As I walked down in the streets of Laredo, as I walked out in Laredo one day, I spied a young cowboy all wrapped in white linen, all wrapped in white linen and cold as the clay. Well, sir, the years started to run by, and pretty soon the iron horse as the Indians called it, the railroad train, started spreading its silver rails across one end of America to another. Thousands of railroad men came west to build the railroad right out to the Pacific Ocean. And we guitars were there with them, making more songs about America's growing days.
9-pound hammer, 9-pound hammer, kill John Henry, can't kill me. 9-pound hammer, 9-pound hammer.
Meanwhile, all over the East, people were busy connecting up rivers and lakes and the ocean with big ditches filled with water called canals. And great big flat-bottomed barges used to be pulled through the canals from one lake or river to another. They used horses and mules to pull the barges, sailed by gangs of canal men. And lots of times, when the going got rough, the men would lend a hand with the pulling alongside the animals. One of the biggest canals was the Erie Canal in New York State. And believe me, when canal men were pulling barges on the Erie, we guitars were there to kind of help them along.
I've got a mule and her name is Sal, 15 miles on the Erie Canal. She's a real hard worker and a dear old pal, 15 miles on the Erie Canal. Low bridge, everybody down, low bridge, 'cause we're coming to a town. Oh, you'll always know your neighbors and you'll always know your pals if you've ever navigated on the Erie Canal.
And say, speaking of instruments that make and play American music, let's hear from our friend Banjo there. Banjo is a string instrument too, although he's made a little differently from me. And one of his distant cousins is, would you believe it, the drum. Yes, sir, the drum. Here, take a good look at him and you'll see why. The banjo is made of a round rim of wood attached to a wooden fingerboard. Across the rim of wood is stretched a piece of parchment or skin, just the same way drums are made. You play the banjo by strumming or plucking his strings just like me. Banjo came over to America with the African slaves over 300 years ago. Banjo music was first heard in this country on the old plantations in the South, where the slaves were forced to live and work. Banjo is plucked with either your fingers or a plectrum, and he's got a happy, plunky sound that's fun to sing with.
The Camptown ladies sing this song, doo-dah, doo-dah. The Camptown racetrack's 5 miles long, oh, doo-dah day. Climb to run all night, climb to run all day. I bet somebody on a bobtail nag, somebody bet on the bay.
Now, ukulele here is the smallest of the three of us. As I told you, he came here from Hawaii. He's only got 4 strings, and his tone is kind of small, so you can't use him for many different kinds of music. But in Hawaii, the ukulele makes beautiful music that's bright and gay and fun to sing and dance to. And by the way, while we're still talking about how string instruments are put together, I'll tell you that we guitars are mighty lucky about one thing. The violinist has to press his fingers down on a string to keep part of it from vibrating, just so he can get all those notes. Pressing his fingers down shortens the strings and makes them play higher notes. Well, me, I've only got 6 strings myself, but I've got these little wooden ridges or frets all down my fingerboard. They show the player just where to put his fingers to get the notes he wants. The violinist hasn't got any such thing to help him out. Mostly, he's just got to listen to what he's playing and be careful to hit it just right. Hold on now. Seems to me I've left someone out. I remember. Folks, I want you to meet the youngest member of the guitar family, my little brother, the electric guitar. I really shouldn't say little, though, 'cause he's actually bigger and heavier than I am. You see that wire attached to him? Well, that goes to an electric amplifier that works just like a PA system in a school auditorium. It makes his voice so loud that little brother can really shake the walls if he's a mind to. Little brother's a big favorite with rock groups of all kinds, from small high school combos to the big name groups like the Beatles and the Rolling Stones. His strings are all made of steel, and to play him, the guitarist has to use a plectrum. That don't seem to make much difference, though, 'cause I reckon he's the most popular member of the family with the young folks today. Well, that's all for now, friends. Speaking for all of us, it sure was a pleasure meeting up with you. Hope you enjoyed it half as much as we did. So long, partner.